Hey everyone, what's going on? If you're new to this channel, I'm going to leave this playlist in the description, and if you watch this playlist, or at least some of it, hopefully you'll be able to follow along to what I'm talking about in this video. This video is going to be a follow-up of the information that I've been following for pretty much the past year. A lot of it came on August 6th this year, but it began back in December of last year. And what I've been following is this pattern that has existed within my own life in regards to the color pink. And it might sound ridiculous, but what I talk about on this channel is these signs and these patterns and these symbolism that go on with my own life and how it syncs up to the things that we are being told in the mainstream media, and it syncs up to our sports leagues. And if you understand this system called Gematria, which is the practice of coding numbers into words and phrases, you can understand these patterns and signs and symbolism a whole lot more. And clear back in December, I was talking about the movie The Number 23, and he even does the Gematria of the color pink. Think about Jim Carrey being the Riddler, and in Batman, he uses Gematria, and that's how Batman figures out that he's Edward Nygma, because he uses Gematria in the puzzle even. But in this movie, he does the Gematria of the color pink, and the guy's name's Fingerling, right, that writes the book. And if you look up Fingerling, it takes you to this thing called Pinkelji, right? And it's all about the pinky finger. And some other weird things went on in my life, and I thought that Pink, the singer, would sing the national anthem at the Super Bowl, and then a month later they announced that Pink, the singer, was going to be singing the national anthem at the Super Bowl. So something very, very specific, just by following these patterns that are going on in my own life, and how it syncs up to the mainstream media and some other things, and the sports leagues and whatnot. And the reason that that all exists is because we do live in some type of, universal code, if you will. That's what it all stems back to. If you ever watch the movie Pi, it has a lot to do with the golden ratio and phi, and he's trying to figure out these patterns to beat the stock market and whatnot. So there are people who control our media. There are people who, the same people control our sports leagues, and they understand this knowledge and other ancient knowledge things, and they've been using it to control the minds and rule over the majority of the people. They don't want you to understand this system, because if you did, we could all work together and we wouldn't have to be controlled by these people who understand the system. So that's what I'm trying to do, is figure out the system and how it works and how we can use it to the greater good of the world. And so, just come and check out this playlist. I'll leave some other links in the description so you can learn how to apply Gematria for yourself. You don't even have to understand you don't even have to be able to do the math in your head, because we have this calculator on gematrinator.com that will do the math for you. And so all that being said, one of the main things that I've been talking about all summer, I talked about the Cleveland Indians and how there was something important to this curse of Rocky Colavito. And if you write out Rocky Colavito in satanic gematria, it equals 624. And also Detroit Tigers, the team that he got traded to, equaled 624. And this number was just really important all summer. There was something very, very specific about it. All of this pink symbolism, it came back to me on the date of August 6th, which is the same day we got the Cleveland National Forest Fire in Los Angeles. That was important to Rocky Colavito because they were calling it a holy fire, which is a fire that happens around the time of Easter. And Rocky Colavito was traded on Easter Sunday, and the same day he got traded, the Cleveland Indians played an exhibition game in Memphis, Tennessee, and the place that they played later burnt down. They burnt down on Easter Sunday. And I just bring all that back up because it sinks in here. And Cleveland was important to Donald Trump winning the election in 2016, and it was also important to Prince Charles, who will become King Charles III if Queen Elizabeth dies. And what I pointed out was that if you write out King Charles III, it also equals 624 in Satanic Gematria. And 624, June 24th this year, the Indians just so happened to play the Tigers on that day. What are the odds? You know, the Indians play the Tigers, but that's also the day that leaves 190 days in the year. And notice if you write out King Charles, that equals 190. And if you look up Queen Elizabeth, her birthday is on April 21st, 421. Let's type it out really quick. If you go to Prince Charles's birthday, which is 11/14, it just so happens to be 6 months and 24 days. 624. Also 207, the word Charles equals 207. But just notice, 624, all of these things synced up to Prince Charles. And I guess the reason that I bring all this up is because today we got multiple stories that were connected to this pink symbolism. We got a story of, a mainstream media story about Pink, the singer's husband, warning the Wildfire Looters. Now, like, why in the world is this even a mainstream story, right? Pink's husband. And it comes on Prince Charles's birthday, November 14th. Pink's husband has a warning for Wildfire Looters. And her husband's name, or the word pink equals 190 in Satanic Gematria as well, pink. And Wildfire Looters equal 190. And when you look up her husband, you notice that his birthday just so happens to be July 17th, 717. This is a really important number to Prince Charles and the royal family. Right now, Queen Elizabeth is the queen, which is the House of Windsor. And the House of Windsor just so happened to begin on 7/17 of the year 17. And if she dies, it will become the House of Mountbatten Windsor. It will end the House of Windsor. So interesting, 7/17 of the year 17. This guy born on 7/17. Prince Charles's wife is Princess Camilla. Her birthday just so happens to be July 17th, 7/17. And she turned 71 years old on this day in 2018. So she turned 71 years old this year on 7/17. If you go from Prince Charles's birthday to Princess Diana's birthday, Princess Diana, she was born on 7/1. That was his former wife that he got divorced to, and then, she died in 1997, but she was born on 7/1. If you go from his birthday to her birthday, it is 7 months and 17 days. What are the odds of that? 7/17. She was born on 7/1. Now Princess Camilla turned 71 on 7/17. Now we're getting a story about Pink's husband, whose birthday is on 7/17. And to make it even funnier, if you go back and look at this playlist, something else I was talking about in regards to the pink symbolism was how it was connected to a bunch of things that involved Moore. M-O-O-R-E. Moore and Molly. That's why we have the Molly Tibbet story and the cop following her wearing the pink shirt and whatnot. More, though. We also today got a story about Mandy Moore and her boyfriend, and they wrote a song together on this TV show called This Is Us. So I thought I'll look up Mandy Moore's boyfriend. Mandy Moore's boyfriend, would you believe he is born on 7/17 as well? What are the odds of that? I'm talking about how these two things are interrelated, and they're both their significant others are born on 7/17. It's just unbelievable. I even mentioned Aerosmith in this playlist. If you look at this, Aerosmith and the synchronicity to the pink symbolism, they have a song called Pink is My Favorite Color, right? And what just recently happened, recently we got the story of the Joe Perry being hospitalized after he collapsed. And there's some interesting things that are going on with this. I talked about the Boston Red Sox when we got the pink symbolism, because, you know, Aerosmith is from Boston and whatnot. Then the Boston Red Sox went on to win the World Series, even though I thought it was for the Indians because Prince Charles and whatever. The Indians were connected to lots and lots of things this year. But, you know, this guy, he's super connected to these things that I've been recently documenting about. And I've talked about UFC 190 with Ronda Rousey, and I don't want to lose you. Maybe I'll talk about this at the end of the video, but, you know, it's interesting that I even mentioned UFC 190 that was in Brazil, and what was it, in 2016, just before Tom Petty died, Aerosmith, Steven Tyler got sick and they had to cancel their tour in Brazil, and UFC 190 was in Brazil, and Brazil equals 612, which is this big number that's synced up to earthquakes, and also King James and LeBron James, and, you know, a Cavalier is a follower of King Charles. Charles was the son of King James. But let's look at the story here with Pink's husband. What's another thing that's funny about this story is right next to it, we get this breaking story about Kevin McCarthy. And if you go back and look at my Pink Symbolism playlist here, my Pink one, there was the Pink and Moore and Molly, right? And I had this synchronicity that led me to the show Mike and Molly that stars Melissa McCarthy, right? Who is on that recent movie that came out with the Muppets, the Murder Muppets or whatever the movie was called. I can't think of what the movie is called. So just interesting, we get this story about Pink's husband right next to the story about Kevin McCarthy. You know, what are the odds? But moving on here. So his birthday's 7/17. Like I said, Charles's birthday to Diana's was 7 months and 17 days. Diana born on 7/1. Her birthday's also 71 days after Queen Elizabeth's birthday. What are the odds? 71 days. If you read out her real name, Diana Spencer, that equals 71. The word Catholic equals 71. And, you know, all throughout history, they wanted you to think that the Catholic Church and, you know, the Church of England are separated or divided, but in reality, it's all just one and the same, you know. Just a different group. It's because they control both sides. That's the thing. These people who understand this knowledge, they put forth all of these things in front of us, and they keep us divided by giving us two sides of a story, and they never allow us to think outside the box, you know. Such as, I'm going to make a video later in regards to the kids doing the Nazi thing, but, you know, Hitler supposedly hated Hitler supposedly hated the Freemasons and didn't want the Freemasons because of the, you know, they were influenced by the Jews and whatnot. But then Hitler's name equals the same as, you know, the real name of Scottish Rite Freemasonry, and Mein Kampf came out in that same number. And Henry Ford was a big influence on Hitler. Henry Ford is a humongous Freemason. Henry Ford, he died on 4/7 of the year 47. And if you look up Freemasonry, the Freemason square and compass is set at 47 degrees. And, you know, it's a tribute to Euclid's 47th problem about the foundation of a perfect square. Foundation equals 47. You know, Ford Motor Company equals 211, which is the 47th prime number. Republican, White House, President, Democrat, DC, they all equal 47 in Gematria. So, super important thing. So, moral of the story is they're giving you, you know, one side. They're giving you two sides and making you choose. But they're not letting you see the bigger picture that is going on in this world. And that's the way they can easily control people's minds, you know, using this duality that you know, everything is the same and everything is the opposite, when in reality, it sort of works that way, but it doesn't, you know. There's other things that, you know, there's other ways that you can look at certain things, you know. Anyway, what else is interesting then? So, Diana, Princess Diana, she died 132 days after Queen Elizabeth's 71st birthday. What are the odds? Her 71st birthday. Princess Diana in Gematria equals 132. Just like England equals 132. You know, Catholic equals 71. And if you write out Catholic Church, it equals 132. And if Queen Elizabeth dies, it will become the House of Mountbatten Windsor that equals 132. And think about the United States of America that equals 132. And the connection to, you know, England and Britain and supposedly gaining our independence. What are the odds? England and United States of America both equal 132 in Gematria. Elizabeth became the queen 132 days after the Jesuit anniversary. The Jesuits are, you know, basically the Freemasons within the Catholic Church. Well, once again, 132 days after that anniversary. House of Windsor equals the same as Society of Jesus in Gematria. It supposedly got divided because King Henry VIII didn't want to stay married to Catherine of Aragon, right? Because she couldn't have his children or whatever. His name equals 191 in Gematria. Elizabeth II equals 191 in Gematria. Rome equals 191 in Gematria. It's because they're all interrelated. Catherine of Aragon, King Henry VIII's wife, just so happened to be Isabella of Castile's daughter, and she's the one, Isabella of Castile is the one who financed Christopher Columbus, right? That was sent by the Catholic Church to come over and kill all the Native Americans, basically. He didn't really discover America, like we're told, right? There's already people here, how do you discover that, right? So, you know, she's the one who financed that. She's also the one who wiped out the Muslim Moors. Think about that. The Muslim Moors. She completely wiped them out. They were the ones who ruled in Spain and Portugal before she wiped them out. So, I mean, it's all just a show. Clear back then, they made King Henry VIII get a divorce and say that it was this, you know, not connected, but it really was. There's much, much more. I've talked about this multiple times. The Jesuits were founded with the same Pope, or when this 220th Pope was the Pope, he's also the same Pope who fully excommunicated King Henry VIII, the 220th Pope. Prince Charles equals 220 in Gematria. Donald John Trump equals 220 in Gematria. He's synced up to Pope Francis. Pope Francis's birthday is 2 months and 20 days after the Jesuit anniversary. He's the supposed first Jesuit Pope. So, I just talked about here, Princess Camilla's birthday, 7/17. She turned 71 years old this year. Her real name, Camilla Rosemary Shand, equals 211, the 47th prime. Prince Charles's birthday is on the day that leaves 47 days in the year, the day we're getting this story. You know, her name also in Satanic equals 911, which is an interesting number, you know. If he ever becomes the king, that's pretty interesting, you know. 911. And look at this. So this story, it comes in perfect alignment with Pink's husband, too. His real name is Carey Jason Philip Hart. That equals 120 in Gematria. Of course, the story comes 120 days after his birthday. And this is interesting because when I talked about Joe Perry and Aerosmith and Pink, I mentioned the Brazilian fire that happened on 9/2. 9/2 leaves 120 days in the year. And my cousin supposedly, or did, I guess, my cousin works for this company called Sound Image in San Diego, California, and he goes on tour with Def Leppard, and he runs the monitors. And Aerosmith just so happened to be on tour with them just before Tom Petty died in Brazil, and Steven Tyler got sick and they canceled the show and whatnot. But my cousin, his full name in Gematria equals 120. Christopher David Houston. That equals 120 in Gematria. So, just interesting, you know, and Queen Elizabeth is 92 years old right now. If you read out Diana, Princess of Wales, it equals 120. But I guess, for sure, want to just get the point across that we got the story about Pink's husband, 120 days after his birthday, his name equals 120. The media does that absolutely constantly, you know. But Brazil equals 68, Prince Charles 68, Donald John Trump 68, Pope Francis with the S exception equals 68. If you write out Pope Francis the First, that equals 68. You know, Barack Obama's name equals 68 in Gematria. 68 is this big year in regards to 9/11 as well. So just think about that in regards to Camilla's full name equaling 911. Talked a lot about 9/11 symbolism all year as well. Joe Perry's age 68 right now. And they did the whole thing with him at the Billy Joel concert. Figured out William Joel instead of Billy. That equals 68 in Gematria. It's also interesting that in 2015 I was talking about how that date 717 was important because of Levi's Stadium. And that's where the college football championship is going to be played this year. Thank you to whoever commented that to me. I didn't know that, but it's going to be played on 1/7. And, you know, Moses is in the tribe of Levi. Moses equals 17 in Gematria, also 71. The Ten Commandments equal 71. But in 2015, when I was talking a lot about this to begin with, I talked about Moses' brother, who is named Aaron, who was born on the 1st of Av, which on the Jewish calendar that year, in 2015, his birthday was 717. And in Hebrew lettering, if you look up Hebrew lettering, the word Yahweh, it even kind of looks like a 717. And the reason I mention all this is I just discovered today or last night that Levi's Stadium just so happened to be opened on the date of 717. What are the odds of that? Levi's, the first team to play there was the San Jose Earthquakes. The San Jose Earthquakes won, right? Been talking a lot about San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge, and how it's related to, you know, a major earthquake. So, interesting, Levi's Stadium opened on 717. Also, if you look them up, they were structurally engineered, that place, by the place called Magnuson Klemenkic Associates, which is the same company who structured the World Trade Center, right? And their name equals, what, 156 in Gematria, I believe? I think it does, 156, which is, that's 156 prime is 911, right? And if you write out false flag, it equals 156. And, you know, many, many other things. It was 33 years after 1968 when World Trade Center construction began, and it began on the date of August 6th, which in most parts of the world, they read it as 6/8 of 68, right? And that's also the year that George Bush graduated from Yale Skull and Bones, and his birthday, 68 days before 9/11. And that's also the year that 911 was made the emergency dialing code, in the year 1968. It was a really, really important year, so, you know, just interesting how some of this stuff is interrelated. All these 68s. I think, maybe I could be wrong, I think even San Francisco equals 68. Maybe with the S exception. We'll look it up really quick. San Francisco. Yeah, San Francisco with the S exception even equals 68. So, you know, it's super connected to Pope Francis, the first Jesuit Pope. So, you know, hopefully all this makes sense. There's a lot of interesting, interrelated things that go way back. If you look up King Henry VIII, he was even coronated on the date of 6/24, and then they tell us that Freemasonry was founded on 6/24 in the year 1717. That's also the day that Grover Cleveland died. Then, now that I'm thinking about it, I think Grover Cleveland even died at the age of 71. Look it up really quick. Grover Cleveland. Yeah, he died at the age of 71 even, right? And his Stephen, if you look up the name Stephen, it means crown. And he died, his birthday was 318, which is important to all kinds of things I'm talking about. Prince Charles was born on the 318th day of the year in a non-leap year. Like today was his birthday on the 318th day. And Princess Diana died on August 31st, which in England they read it as 31/8. This number is really important to the return of Jesus. It's mentioned 318 times in the New Testament. If you watch that TV show called Touch, that it talks about kind of what I'm talking about, right? The red string of Kabbalah and whatnot. The God number begins and ends with 318. Think about that in regards to the Golden Gate Bridge. The Jews believe the Messiah is going to return through the Golden Gate. And just think about that. The Cleveland National Forest Fire that was in the Los Angeles area, right? That we got the Dodgers of the World Series. And now these big stories are all coming out about the California wildfires and whatnot. So this is about Pink's husband, and I believe their home's in Malibu, right? So absolutely interrelated. Also, if you remember, Prince Charles he got married to Camilla in 2005, and it was supposed to get married on the date of 4/8, which is super important. He's born in the year 48. Cleveland equals 48. The Indians haven't won a World Series since the year 48. After they lost to the Cubs, Donald Trump went on to win the election. Donald Trump equals 48. The word wall equals 48. The Mexican-American War ended in 48. Mike Pence, the 48th vice president. The word Freemason equals 48. A super important number. So, just interesting. They moved the date up of his wedding, though, because of the death of Pope John Paul II. Pope John Paul II. I'm going to look him up really quick, too. Because I've been talking about how there's something important to the state that I live in, Iowa. And the Iowa Hawkeyes were important to the pink symbolism because they paint their opposing locker room pink, right? Think about Molly Tibbetts being from Iowa. And Pope John Paul II is the only pope to visit Iowa. So he came to Iowa. Just looking at some things here. I forgot to look him up. I wonder what his name equals in Gematria. Pope John Paul II. 211. It's awesome. It's John Paul II. Well, this number's hilarious. And the word Pope equals 52. This number 56 is also really important. Royal family equals 56. So does Society of Jesus. That equals 56. A lot of the boogeymen. Osama bin Laden, 56. ISIS, 56. The word president, with the S exception, 56. So, I don't know. I forgot to look at that. I need to go back and look more into Pope John Paul II because he's important. And look, Iowa equals 48. That's why it's important. Iowa 48. Iowa also 188, like Bavarian Illuminati. And a little bit ago I mentioned that, well, Illuminati equals 48, but I mentioned that 120 a little bit ago too. So 120. Super duper important. Let's look at some of these other ones here really quick. Oh yeah. So this is another synchronicity thing. So I documented about pink earlier today, and later tonight I got on CNN, and that's when I saw this Mandy Moore story, right? And how it was related. And like I said, her boyfriend's birthday on 7/17. The song or the TV show is called This Is Us, that equals 404, like King James, like Prince Charles, like Pope Francis. Pope Francis arrived at 404 in America. When he came to America in 2015 at 404, and it was 404 years after the King James Bible was written. And Revelation has 404 verses. But I noticed that one of the main things that Mandy Moore they talk about on her Wikipedia channel was that she plays the voice of Rapunzel on the movie Tangled. And it even originally premiered on Prince Charles's birthday. But what's funny is just last night, my daughter turned this movie on, and I've never seen it before, and I was like, that horse is kind of a dickhead or something. I don't remember my exact wording, but this horse, like, wanted to kill this guy and kill her or something. They were going after her, and I don't know, I was just making small talk, and I didn't understand, like, why the horse was so powerful or whatever, and, I don't know. And just funny. Like, it's just so weird. And her and my girlfriend were like, what, you've never seen this movie before? And I was like, no, I've never watched this movie before. So I watched probably like a half hour or more of this movie. And then now today, I'm getting all this stuff with, the royal family connected back to this pink Moore, whatever symbolism. And then I find out that Mandy Moore is the voice of Rapunzel on this movie. So, and on her Wikipedia, it also talks about how she's going to be the voice of Rapunzel on Ralph Breaks the Internet. And if you've been following my channel, before the pink stuff, a big thing was all about Ralph and how it's connected to the royal family. Once again, King Ralph, he comes from Las Vegas. And I was talking about all of this before we got the Vegas shooting, right? And then Ralphie May died in Las Vegas. And remember, Joe Perry and Aerosmith, well, Aerosmith just took residency in Las Vegas. So it's important. And King Ralph leaves Las Vegas to become the new king of England, right? So now, it's just interesting. This movie called Ralph Breaks the Internet is coming out. And they even, in this movie, he goes along and he meets all of these people, Disney and Pixar, and also the Muppets, which is interesting with Melissa McCarthy being in that new Muppets movie and whatnot, so. She's also in the movie called The Princess Diaries, which I thought was interesting. The only thing I really remember her for is being a singer, and I don't even remember her famous song. Apparently it was called Candy, now I'm looking it up, but couldn't even tell you how it goes. And I also remember this stupid movie I watched called Saved, which I kind of want to go watch again now, but we also recently got the story. We'll just keep going here on the royal family stuff. We recently got a story about Brexit again in the mainstream media. And, European Union equals 168, just like Queen Elizabeth II. It also equals 84, or Queen Elizabeth II also equals 84. And all of this is coded to, the new prime minister at the time became Theresa May, right? And Prime Minister equals 168, just like European Union. Prime Minister also equals 623. European Union equals 623. And that Brexit vote happened on the date of 623. So this comes one day before Prince Charles's birthday. The UK is going to leave the EU on the 88th day of next year, which is interesting because Elizabeth equals 88. And the word Queen in Francis Bacon Gematria equals 88. And remember, Donald Trump, Brexit happened 138 days before the U.S. election. Donald Trump equals 138 in Gematria. And then they announce he wins the election on the anniversary of the Berlin Wall. The Berlin Wall was originally constructed on 13/8, like 138. But just after Brexit, we had Donald Trump's National Convention that was 88 days after Queen Elizabeth's birthday in Cleveland. And he came out to the song We Are the Champions by the band Queen. And then now we just recently get this movie about Queen coming out. And Freddie Mercury, just after the Cavs, who are a follower of King Charles, won the NBA Finals on the real King James's birthday. All of this stuff that I've documented about, it's all coming back up, so. Possibly Elizabeth's going to give up her duties, or she's going to die after, the UK leaves the EU, which would make a lot of sense considering how she's synced up to it so much, right? So, I wonder what happens after they leave the EU, if they really completely do leave the EU. see here. I'm trying to look at some other stories here. There's just so many things I've documented about. If you come to my blog, I'm telling you, like, over and over. Well, I'll leave it here. I want to make this Nazi video, then I got to try to get some sleep. So, you know, all of these things that, I mean, I don't fully understand it yet, but I really feel like Prince Charles has got to be becoming the king very shortly, you know. Zach even documented about the Queen Anne fire in Seattle and whatnot, and if you look up Queen Anne even died on the same day that Queen Elizabeth became the queen, 2-6, right? And the word queen equals 26, and Queen Elizabeth became 26 years old after becoming the queen, and she was born in 26, coronated on 6-2. But let's look at Queen Anne really quick. Well, there's a whole bunch of them, but Queen Anne of Britain, her birthday was 2-6. And she died on 8-1. This big bridge number. Bunch of stuff I've been talking about. So, coronated on 4/23, which is interesting. It's a big number I talked about with Charles II and whatnot. Who also died. He died on 2-6. And his coronation was on April 23rd as well. So, interesting stuff. That's why I think we're getting the stuff about Carmelo Anthony as well, because William of Orange is who, you know, she came after. She came after William of Orange, who came after King James II. And William of Orange, think about Carmelo Anthony and the New York Knicks and also the Syracuse Orangemen. That's why, you know, Carmelo Anthony is important into all of the coding that's going on right now. So, but whatever. I'll leave it there. Hopefully that makes sense. You know, just going to keep following this, all these synchronicity things. There's no doubt in my mind, you know, Pink 190, King Charles 190. Now we get the story about Pink's husband and Mandy Moore's boyfriend, or Mandy Moore and her boyfriend, on Prince Charles's birthday. So, whatever. Have a good one. Peace.